And we're done. Excellent.
Okay, good.
So this is a professional discussion around classroom management and behaviour for our PGCE CPPD module, and the date is 4th of the 12th, 2013. It's going to take the form of asking 5 questions to each other each. Hopefully we'll be able to draw out certain answers that will help us with our module. So, I'm going to ask the first question, and I'm going to ask it to Olivia, and it is, Liv, can you give a brief description of your learners and their background, please?
Yeah, most of them have come to tracks because they've dropped out of school or they've been in trouble with the law, so they usually have no formal education. Quite often they won't have sat GCSEs, certainly not A-levels. They come to tracks usually from a criminal background with no qualifications.
So what's their age groups?
We work 13 to 19 and I teach maths to the 16 to 19 group.
Okay, so at a level where, well, you would call them unachievers in compulsory and post-compulsory education to one degree or another. Mm-hmm. Right, okay.
The government term them as NEET usually when they come to us, so it's not in education, employment or training.
If they are below the age of 16, are they still classed as a NEET learner?
No, because they're still tied to an education facility.
But why are they with you at that age?
The schools pay us to have them, some 1 day a week, some 2, and some come to us 3 days a week, and we're an outside education provider, so schools who they might be having trouble with a student, for example, because of behaviour, but they have to keep educating that student, so they send them to us and they pay anything from £50 to £65 a day.
Have they sent them to you because they are so disruptive?
Usually. Yes.
Or they have learning difficulties that can't be...
That happens sometimes.
Right.
We do have quite a range of issues that come with our students. More often it's because of behaviour. Most of them have ADHD or some other diagnosis to do with attention and behaviour. We have ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder.
Never heard of that one.
No, it's a new one doing the rounds. And we get quite a lot who have come through, usually, sadly for them, they've come through the care system and they're quite damaged, I suppose, emotionally.
Okay, yeah.
So they have a lot of issues, a lot of baggage, a lot of dysfunction socially.
Is it physical and mental, or is it just the mental side of the learners?
Do we have learners with physical disabilities?
Yeah.
We do.
Wheelchair bound, that type of thing?
We do a group with Mabel Pritchard Special School, and they do a gardening project. It's all fully wheelchair accessible. And that's
okay.
But I don't teach them the maths, they just come and do gardening.
So, from the question, it's safe to say that they are extremely challenging learners.
Yeah.
Way beyond what you would expect to come across in mainstream education.
They've all usually been expelled from, if not one, probably more.
Right, so when there's nowhere else to go, they come to you.
For a lot of them, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Liv, thanks.
So, could you then briefly describe your learners in terms of their ability level and their motivation?
So, I generally teach apprentices in engineering at level 2 and level 3. So, the last point at which you teach them in an educational environment, because beyond level 2 and 3, all education within engineering is done in the workplace when you're an engineer, okay? And I predominantly teach all the practical tasks, so within a workshop, so all the machining, all the hand work, all the sheet metal work, everything where they need to really employ a great deal of psychomotor backed up by a lot of cognitive abilities. They think and then they do with their hands, and they have to make that
Is there
jump.
any written work then involved, or is it all practical?
There's some written work, but it isn't written in a format it's note form when they plan. So they have to get their ideas down in note format and present it to me so that we can agree a staged plan for their construction of their individual parts. Their behaviour can only be described as exemplary, and there's a reason for that. It's because they are all employed, they all have jobs to protect. So they've gone through the education system, they've studied employability and other things, then gone out into the big wide world, got a job as an apprentice. So they've gone through all the interview scenarios, had an interview with an employer and got a position. So then we get them back. Some of them are new learners to our organisation. Some of them, happily, are learners that have been taught at previous levels and they've gone out into a big wide world. Their behaviour, because of that, is exemplary. They do not want to put their position and their employment at risk, and they realise that to earn more money they have to pass their apprenticeship. So they're really, as well as being exemplary in their behaviour, very well motivated as well.
So they're intrinsically motivated.
They are very intrinsically motivated to succeed. Not only that, they all have what I would describe as a passion. There's nobody there that thinks they may like to be an engineer. These are all pointed choices that they've made, succeeded in, and then taken on from there.
Must be nice. Must be refreshing. Yeah, completely opposite to ours. Completely.
Okay. Yes. That's the reason why we're doing this.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to ask Liv her second question. How does having to deal with challenging learners every lesson leave you feeling about your teaching ability?
Interesting. Well, that was the topic really on my issue in the action learning set.
Okay.
I think first of all I was saying that I was worried that my technique wouldn't fit all abilities, but actually leaving each lesson, sometimes no learning objectives get met at all, and you can say, well, that was a good lesson because nobody beat anyone up. And a lot of the time it's more about managing the class and behaviour than it is about delivering any maths, which I find slightly frustrating. And when you were talking about your students, I was thinking how refreshing. It must be really lovely to, go in with your lesson plan and say, right, we're doing this today, and watch them all and see them learning.
Yeah.
That does happen sometimes, but I'm only teaching entry 3 and level 1, so again it's very small steps, and it is disheartening often and frustrating. It's disappointing because you do the work, you make these nice.
So that's interesting what you said there. Frustrating and disappointing.
It is, because you do the work and get everything. And before starting this course, prior to year 1, I did petals, and I learnt so much about the way that we teach at tracks. And we've got a very youth work approach, and it used to be that if they weren't in the mood for doing maths, then we'd do something else. But because of having to follow a scheme of work and be more structured last year, I found it really challenging following that plan, and on observation days was really worried because the lesson can just go completely.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I got very good at controlling that, and actually by the end of year 1 we were hitting the learning objectives, but I wasn't being quite so, what's the word? I didn't have such high expectations.
So how does that make you feel about your overall teaching ability, knowing that you get disappointed and frustrated about it?
Well, I was concerned, and I am concerned, that only teaching at tracks isn't giving me enough experience of
Not
teaching.
holistic enough.
No, and I don't feel like I'm a bad teacher, because actually what I do with them, I get on very well with them. And most of the time they achieve what we set out to achieve. I had a very bad lesson on Monday, just gone, when we only did one task out of the 3 things that were set, and they just went off on a tangent, and they're all hyper, and it just sometimes it just happens like that.
Yeah, I can imagine. No, I can imagine that.
And we have a very long meeting every day after sessions where all the staff get together and discuss individuals, because they're very high profile young people, and we have to go into quite a lot of depth. So it's kind of like supervision every day, which is nice. So it doesn't become like an ongoing problem. It's just a short-term thing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
So you talked about your students are motivated because of their jobs.
Yeah, their intrinsic motivation, yeah.
Are there any particular methods that you use to motivate them? If you see one lagging, do you sort of G them on, or do you never come across that as an issue?
It doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, I use a scenario system. I try and equate the problem that they're having to their employment, such as if you're unfocused, maybe the reason you're unfocused at this point is because you don't understand the task at hand. Mm-hmm. What would you do if you were the only engineer on site, i.e. you had gone somewhere after sales, and a customer had phoned you up and said, I've got a huge problem, come and fix this. And put them on the spot. Now start thinking about how you are going to tackle this problem, because you can't stand there when the other man is paying for you an inordinate amount of money, and the average is about 500 quid a day to get an engineer on site, and you're not going to be able to stand there and become unfocused and start chatting to the workforce, and the man wants his work out of you. So I use a scenario system to try and bring them back on task if we do have a behavioural problem, and try and get them to equate it to their individual employments.
Interesting.
Okay.
So you're asking me question 3.
Okay. It's pretty obvious that you are in a relatively unique environment. Do you use any teaching techniques that are not prescribed, i.e. that you've made up yourself, that you've invented, that you would think are not appropriate for higher level learners?
That's a really interesting question. I think because of the range of learners we get, I have developed a style of working with them that probably wouldn't fit mainstream education.
Right.
We
Can you give an example?
have a second-year student with us from Ruskin who's doing youth and community degree, and he was having a supervision in the office next door to me, and I overheard him speaking to my colleague about me and my style, and he said, Olivia uses humour with the students, which works really well for her, he said, but it's not something that he would be able to get away with, which I thought was very interesting when I heard him say that, because I do use humour a lot, but I use it in a way that might not be deemed appropriate all the time by other professionals. For example, if one of our there's a lot of swearing goes on. Is
that you or your learners?
Sometimes it's me,
okay.
But the learners do swear a lot, and we have quite a relaxed attitude towards that.
Oh, all right.
There's a smoking area, so they're allowed to smoke.
Yeah.
And it's very different from school, because the reason they're with us is because they don't fit a school environment.
Yeah, because they don't fit in school.
So it's not like school. So one of the things that the lads, particularly the ones with behaviour issues, want to do is they all want to be alpha male. So when you've got 8 of them in a room, they all want to be the rudest, the most shocking, the baddest, the one who's had the most fights, the most conquest in the bedroom, and they're 16, 17, and they're all saying this, this and this, and they're always trying to shock you. And so I always make sure that I initially shock them back, so that they... It's not something I do consciously either, but it's something that I've realised I do over the few years that I've been doing it, and they'll say stuff and do things and
Yeah.
try and shock me.
Yeah.
But I am unshockable now because I've been doing it for 8 or 9 years. And
So it's almost like a competition.
with them, yeah.
them, yeah.
But I have to make sure that I'm the alpha male, so to speak,
Yeah.
the alpha female in the room. So whatever they say, they're trying to buoy me off, as they put it, or buoy each other off, and I'll make sure that I buoy them off. So I might say something, you know, a joke to them about them.
That is completely
Inappropriate
inappropriate
possibly is.
and not politically correct.
It's probably not a very professional way of dealing with things, but it works at tracks. It works.
Is that
for me.
because of that specific environment?
Probably.
And who taught you this?
It's just something that developed, I think. I don't think it's
So
something...
no one came in and said, right, you can use this as a technique.
No.
It's just something that's really, really interesting.
Could be something that I've seen other people do, I suppose. I'm just thinking back to my first youth work when I was in Barton and Wood Farm.
Because there's something about engaging your learners at their level, but staying professional with it. So do you think that's what you are doing? You are
I think
engaging
so.
them at their level so they can understand you.
Yeah, but that does involve swearing and, you know...
Something that's completely
Just-
unacceptable to mainstream teaching.
Probably, yeah. I mean, we do always joke that I wouldn't last 5 minutes in mainstream.
Teaching.
I'm going to edit this bit out. But, yeah, because I'm very relaxed with them.
That would be...
And
yeah.
I do have the reputation with the young people. They always think I'm the sort of quirky one, the weird one. And they always go, oh, you're mad, you're mad. So I play up to that a little bit as well. But it builds a rapport with them quite quickly. So then when I
Right.
come in the kitchen and go,
Right.
come on guys, lunch is over, it's time to do maths now. And I do like a little
Yeah.
dance or something. They're, oh, you're mad. But they still come and do their maths.
Okay.
As if I'm all authoritarian with them,
No,
they tell me
brilliant.
to F off.
Yeah. No, I can believe that. I
sound
can.
like a
I
right
can.
weird.
No, I can see that in extraordinary circumstances you need to use extraordinary tactics.
It's quite a unique job, I think, what we do at Tracks.
Very.
I'm very proud of it, but
Yeah,
I think
good.
it's quite unique. And in terms of technique in the classroom, when I write my lesson plans, I use a lot of behaviourist things,
Yep.
like a lot of spoon feeding, a lot of very short, snappy little tasks,
Yep.
because they've got attention spans of guinea pigs, and that works. And I think if I tried a more holistic thing, it probably wouldn't work, because they'd just go off topic.
Yeah, they just wouldn't understand it, would they?
No, but what's your sort of main technique in terms of the theories and...
Carrot and the stick, in one respect. You can't progress in their learning to the higher stages that I have planned with them unless they can fundamentally understand where they are now.
Mm-hmm.
And admittedly within my groups, because of the incredible intrinsic motivation, you don't have to use a lot of behaviourist techniques. But you do have to link them when you do use them. You do have to link them so that it is relevant. Otherwise, it's not that they won't get it, they will. But if you were to do something that was not within their domain in order to try and retrieve something from them, whatever that may be, not that they wouldn't understand you, they wouldn't see where it fitted.
Okay.
So, if I do have to use any behaviourist techniques, then it is based around the learning that has gone before, where they are now, and where they need to get to, because all the tasks are incremental in difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main reasons for that is health and safety. It is such a it is such. You've got all these very expensive, very large machine tools that are quite capable of inflicting huge damage upon yourself. That you need to get them focused on what they're doing and keep them focused on what they're doing. And one of the things that